This is the story of the people of Israel in its land. We are in the days of the last independent Jewish kingdom. For over 1,000 years, the Jewish people lived in the land of Israel under their own kings. King David made Jerusalem his capital some 3,000 years ago, and his son Solomon built a holy temple there. Jews from every part of the country made pilgrimage to the temple in Jerusalem. With the rise of the Roman Empire, the Jews came under the oppressive rule of the Romans. Some of them were determined to win back their independence and rebelled against the Roman rule. After besieging Jerusalem for 6 long months, the Roman general Titus destroyed the Holy Temple, massacred the citizens, and burned the city to the ground. Only an empty shell of outer walls was left standing, a sad reminder of the glorious temple that was. The defeated fighters were taken to Rome for a triumphal march. In the generations following the destruction, the Jewish sages laid the foundations for one of the most glorious periods in Jewish history. The social, legal, and educational systems that they developed enabled Jewish communities to survive wherever they were. In every society in which they lived, Jews played an important role, contributing to science, culture, and the economy. Often, they were persecuted or expelled because of their beliefs, and at times forced to practice their Judaism in secret. But even in difficult times, they clung to their culture and traditions. A new wind began to blow in the Jewish communities in the diaspora, and more Jews refused to accept exile as their fate. Little by little, Jews from all over the world began to make their way to the land of Israel. They came with a burning desire to live in the land of their forefathers. Changes taking place in the international arena in the wake of the Industrial Revolution boosted the stream of Jews returning to their homeland. They joined their brethren who had never left, working together to rebuild the land. It was a young Jewish journalist who turned the new wind into a movement and gave it a name, Zionism. Theodor Herzl believed that the people must rely only on itself. He had a vision and a plan and devoted his life to making the age-old dream a reality. In the land of Israel, the ancient Hebrew language was reborn, with new words to express the needs of the modern multicultural society taking shape in the Jewish homeland. In 1917, the nations of the world, led by Great Britain, recognized the right of the Jewish people to establish a national home in the land of Israel. While the Jews were engaged in building the foundations of a new country, another people in another part of the world united around an entirely different idea, one that led its followers to commit the most horrendous crime against humanity. The Nazis began with the cancellation of civil rights, progressed to persecution and riots, and eventually carried out a systematic annihilation of 6 million Jews with a brutality that the modern world had never seen or even imagined. But sometimes, from the depths of despair, the soul finds the strength to carry on. The Nazis murdered 1/3 of the Jewish people, but they couldn't kill their spirit. In 1947, the United Nations voted on a plan that would divide the land between the Jews and the Arabs and establish two states, a Jewish state and an Arab state. The UN partition plan was accepted by the Jewish leadership. The nation united in joyful celebration. Not so among the Arabs. The Arabs utterly rejected the partition plan. The morning after the UN vote, the Arabs within Israel, as well as the Arabs in the surrounding countries, attacked Jewish communities. The Israeli celebrations were cut short as they prepared for the newly born state's first war of survival against the combined attacks of 6 Arab armies. Synagogues were destroyed, many of the Jewish residents were killed, wounded, or taken captive. The Jews in the rest of Jerusalem were under siege. Convoys with makeshift armor that tried to break through the siege were ambushed. The war ended in victory for the State of Israel, but Judea, Samaria, and the old city of Jerusalem came under Jordanian occupation. Almost 2 decades later, Israel was again in mortal danger as Arab states banded together and once again threatened to destroy the State of Israel. The fighting was bitter, but Israel won on all fronts. The sweetest victory of all was the liberation of the Holy Temple Mount and the Western Wall. Jerusalem was reunited. For the first time in the city's history, freedom of religion and worship was guaranteed in all the holy sites of Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. The quiet didn't last long. The peace of the holiest day in the Jewish calendar was shattered by the sirens of war. While prayers for divine mercy pounded at the gates of heaven, the Arab armies pounded at the gates of little Israel. Israel's reserve soldiers rallied to fight the enemy. They didn't lay down their arms until the country was safe once more. War requires courage, but even greater courage is required to make peace. The historic peace treaty between Israel and Egypt laid a cornerstone for the desired peace with all of Israel's neighbors. It came closer with the signing of a peace treaty between Israel and Jordan. That same hope inspires Israel's efforts to achieve peace with the Palestinians and to realize the dream of living in peace, shalom, with all its neighbors. The Jews have returned to their homeland. Fulfilling the hopes of 100 generations, the Israelis have overcome daunting obstacles to fashion an open, joyful, and pluralistic society, a vibrant culture, and an innovative economy. The story that began in the land of Israel, then spread out to the farthest reaches of the world, has come full circle. The next chapter is already being written.